First,
Hmm.
I have to say that over the last 20 years of my public health career,
Hmm.
I would definitely say you have been the most ray of sunshine, the best energy. And I remember our last actual meeting when we were planning um, a big national meeting
Hmm.
late last year. I just remember your glow and your shimmy. And so, I talk about that shimmy because there's a commercial with the shimmy. And I'm like, that's
Yeah.
the Henraya shimmy. So, tell me about what is happening for you today.
Well, today it's a beautiful day outside. I can't believe how warm it is outside, but two things can be true. It can be a beautiful day outside, and this is the last day that I will work for the federal government. Today is my last day of work.
Amazing.
Yeah, today that's it.
And would you say you had a choice about today being your last day?
I did not. I did not have a choice about it. If I had my rathers, probably a month ago, it wouldn't be. I completely love my job. I completely love working with people like you, working with my colleagues in my branch, working in my division, and working for that agency. Love, it's a dream job for me. So it's kind of bittersweet to be able to, have to move on, from or be kind of, it wasn't on my own terms. Let's just put it that way. This
I
was
get
not on
that.
my own terms. Um, that we have to part ways.
Yeah. So,
Mhm.
if you can tell me a little bit about your career, like when did you start with the federal government and like how is that part of your mission in life, the work
Okay.
you were doing?
Well, interestingly enough, being from Atlanta, you know about the big employers here. And I used to hear about CDC on television and know that it was in Atlanta. Even though I lived across town, it was a dream of mine to work at this agency. It was a dream of mine. And when I was graduating from Howard University with my doctorate degree, I was at a point in my life where I didn't know what I was going to do. So I applied 8 times to work there, and 8 times they told me no. 8 times.
I applied twice and I
Oh, did
stopped.
you?
But that's
Yeah,
cool. No,
yeah,
you
yeah,
kept
yeah.
going.
I kept going. I kept going 8 times. I was like, no, 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 no. So I came across, it's funny, a woman I was able to publicly thank a few weeks ago, who her line sister worked at the agency and was a part of this wonderful fellowship that she ended up telling my mom about, and we exchanged numbers through my mom, and I ended up being a part of the Epidemic Intelligence Service Fellowship, which is pretty prestigious, So on the ninth time that I applied, they said yes, and I became a part of the EIS. I was an EIS officer. And I loved it. I loved learning about what the agency does. I loved being a part of the what is public health like on the ground, like in action. That was really what it was about, learning what do you do in public health? We write, so I had to write. You investigate outbreaks, so I had to do that. I had to make presentations and all the things, and for 2 years learn all of that. And the most exciting part to me was the keep your bag packed, because you never know what was going to go on in the country, and so you just have to be ready when you get that call to go and help the country protect their health. So I loved that. Like I loved that because I'm a helper. I realized early on that I'm just one of the helpers. So being able to serve the country in that capacity made me feel like I was living my dream.
And how long did you do it?
22 years.
Amazing. Amazing.
22 years. Yes. So
Wow.
I was in the active duty military for the United States Public Health Service for 20 of those years.
Mhm.
And then I retired and was asked to come back into my role And I came back into my role, and I hadn't quite made 2 years yet in that role. So
Gotcha. So you were
before,
still considered probationary.
yes,
Gotcha.
had a few more months to go.
Yeah. So tell me about that day when you found out.
Well, on that day, so it's interesting because the day before is when I started hearing rumblings on the news that these things were that people who were in the status that I was in on probation, quote unquote, were being terminated. And so I really felt it that day, but I didn't receive notification that day. So I feel like my body went through the changes that, oh, this could possibly happen because there's no way that, you know, I fall in that category. And a lot of the misnomer is that probation sometimes sounds like you've done something wrong, when really it's not. It's just that everyone, even when, if you just get a new job, if you transfer to a different job, they put you in this category of 2 years where if something goes wrong with your performance, they can let you go. And usually it just flows by. You never know that you were in the 2 year period, but as luck would have it, it became an issue in 2025. So, so I got caught up in the loop there. I was doing great work, enjoyed the people I was working with. Again, after 22 years, love my job. There was not one day that I would get up and say, I don't want to go to work. When people want to work with you, that's something that's really key. You got to pay attention to that.
Yeah.
That's who you want to work with.
Well, you would show up on every meeting, joyous and happy, and like I said, a ray of sunshine. So I definitely loved seeing that Henry I was going to be on a meeting with me
Yeah.
one day. So,
Yeah.
um, tell me about the day where you had to go back to the office and turn in your equipment. What was
Oh,
it
right.
feeling like, and mentally, what were you processing?
So if I can go back really quickly, so the day I didn't answer your other question. So I was prepared for the email the day before I actually got it. And so it was 2 days later when I got the email, and something just told me to check my phone. And there it was. There it was. So I just kind of rolled with the punches. I was like, okay, well, you kind of already prepared for this 2 days ago. It's real now. So you just need to start making preparations. And I started calling my managers, and telling them that I got this note, and I would not be working with them. And that was really sad because not only was I sad about not working with the people that wanted to work with me and I wanted to work with, I also served some communities across the country. And I was sad for them because a lot of the work that I do is relationship building. And if I must say so myself, that's what I do best. That's what I do best. So I felt bad that I would not be able to continue working with those communities on their public health goals. So to segue into the question, a week later, I had to turn in my official equipment. Um, so I had it all ready by the door, put it in the car, drove up there. And when I turned it all in, I just started feeling angry. And I didn't expect to feel angry, but it made me feel the process was so transactional and impersonal that after 22 years, it felt like I deserved a little bit more than that. And that's just real, like I just felt that there would be a little bit more heart in it instead of just turn this in, check this off, and then you turn around and walk to the car and that's it. So that's kind of how I felt.
Yeah. Well, I can say you definitely deserved and deserve more. And so my question is, when you got back home, I know
Mm-hmm.
you told me there was a short period of time that it was very dark. Could you share
Yeah.
a little bit about that?
Yeah. So after I got the email, the 2 days later, like I mentioned, I was pretty sad, like I was pretty much like, well, I've worked since I was 16 and I've always done good work. All of my evaluations have been top notch. I pride myself. You don't get to a level of educational attainment where you just are a slacker. Like, no, like I demand excellence and I want to put excellence out there. So it made me feel a little bit like I wasn't being excellent,
Hmm.
and I was a little embarrassed that, I lost my job, like I lost my job, like who does that? Like involuntarily, a lot of people, but I've never lost a job before, so it was just a lot of internalization, for me feeling bad and feeling down. But I'm actually grateful about it because I allowed myself to do that. Only for 1 week, though.
Yes. Yes.
Because
Yeah,
at
it
the
was your
end of that
grieving period.
week,
Hmm.
I was just like, let me just get it out. Let me just get it out. I know I'm not gonna be feeling this way because I know I still, nothing has happened to my intelligence. Nothing has happened to my resume. Nothing has happened to the publications or
Hmm.
the awards that I've received.
Hmm.
They're still intact.
Absolutely. They can't take that away.
No, you can't.
Take that
No,
away.
you can't. You can't take that away.
Yeah. So, when we talked earlier, it seemed like there was something that either switched in you
Hmm.
mentally or energetically. And I
Hmm.
just like have this image of my ray of sunshine kind of going like a dark cloud came over
Yeah.
for a little while, for a
Yeah.
week, but
Hmm.
then you made a decision. So can you talk
Right.
about that moment where you made that decision?
Yeah, it's very interesting because, I didn't really know how long I was going to have that cloud over me at all. But one day, and it just happened to be a week, it was really about the alarm clock, honestly. I know that sounds really mundane, but I had turned my alarm clock off that week that I was sad or going through it. And then the week turned around. I was like, I'm having a different week this week. I just said it out loud. Nobody was around. I was like, this week is going to be different. I'm turning this alarm back on and I'm going to be productive. And that's all it was. And it was just like a light switch went boop. And it was like my life changed that next week. Just because I made that decision and said it out loud, like I'm not gonna be sad. I made a couple of decisions that week. I was like, I'm turning my alarm back on. I'm not gonna be sad and embarrassed about what happened.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna tell people that it happened, not, bad mouthing what happened, but people started to ask me. And I was like, because they heard it all on the news. And these
Sure,
are people that I know. And so I was like, I could either be disingenuous, and that's not on me, that's not me, or I could tell them the truth in a way that talks about me and not, the incident largely.
sure,
Because I feel like people who don't know federal workers, it's just theoretical out there that's just happening on the news. But if you know a federal worker, it's a little bit different. You can empathize a little bit more, and it makes what's on the news real. So I started telling people who not like, hey, guess what? None of that. It was just if people asked, I wouldn't hesitate to tell them. I even told my kids, I was like, I'm not ashamed that this happened. And if people ask me, I'm going to tell them because people need to know that this happened.
yes,
People need to know that this happened. So that was another decision that I made. And I think it really, really turned things around for me. And um, I also was at church that Sunday. And the takeaway moment was to be still for an hour at least and let God speak to you.
hmm,
And, I was like, took a little note on my phone. I said, I could do that. I can do that. And you would never believe what I heard. It was incredible how The minute that I switched that light on to be like, nope, no more of the sadness, my life started doing this. It's incredible. It's incredible.
And so now what?
Now, I just feel like if it were not for being let go, I would not feel like I can follow my passions now. Follow things that I've always wanted to do that
Mhm.
were always in my head, but I never really had the energy or the ambition to go after them because I was so committed to my work that I was doing and I never put it in the first place because the job was in the first place. So I feel really good about being able to follow something that I'm passionate about, like I'm extremely passionate about. My whole public health goal in life as a public health employee was to not only highlight health disparities, but to do something about it. Help people to do something about it. Like a lot of people who work in public health will basically highlight, trends and incidents and prevalence of diseases and conditions. That's their job. That's what they do. And then, at the end of the publication in the results or the recommendation section, you often talk about or highlight what people can do, about it. Like what are states doing about what are federal programs doing to help, eliminate these health disparities. And what I found is something that was a little bit missing was that there was never any way in there to teach people how to empower themselves in healthcare settings. Like, be on the team. Like, don't just put your life in the hand of the physician. You're the expert on you, they're the expert on medicine. You form a team, and maybe that will eliminate or start to chip away at these disparities, in addition to all of the things that people who write the manuscripts tell you. But that's also a cog in the wheel that I feel like hasn't been highlighted yet. And that's my passion to do that. I plan to write a book about it. And I promise you that it came to me the second day of the light switch.
And how many pages you have so far right now? Like
Uh,
a week or
eight,
two later?
eight
Eight?
or nine pages.
You've been writing, right? It's coming.
Information is just flowing. It's been 2.5 weeks, and the information is just flowing out of me. The day that I went to dinner with a friend, and she asked me, she suggested that I write a book, and I was like, about what? I thought that she was gonna say write a book about the experience I went through about letting go, being let go, and
Mhm.
I was like, I would never write about that. But then she was like, no, this idea that you've had for years and years and everything just sort of it was like it was incredible. I came home, all the chapters were lined out. Like I'm gonna write about
Amazing. So that book should be out soon. I expect probably next month.
I'm gonna be like, keep
Yeah.
writing.
So
So
now
yeah,
you have time
it's
to do
good.
that.
It's good.
Yeah.
I feel a breath of fresh air. I feel invigorated. I feel empowered myself.
Mm.
That, at first, I would have been very cerebral about it, like, oh, maybe I need to go and get another master's in order to do that. And then I was like, wait a minute. You've been writing all this
And
time.
you
Like,
have already a PhD.
yes, exactly. So I was like, yeah, I can do that. I can do that. And it just once I allowed myself permission, my brain just went ahead.
And you also remembered something else you did earlier on a few years ago. You had already started an LLC.
Yes, yes. So when I retired from the active duty military, one of the things that I wanted to do was start an LLC. And I said, you know what? I don't really know how I'm going to get it off the ground, but at least I'll put an LLC in place. And the LLC and the book are left and right hand. So it's just like, it's like, what could be better than that? The infrastructure is there, the product is coming. So it's just like, I just feel like I'm living my purpose right
Mm,
now, and I could not be happier. I'm
mm.
living my purpose. So it's great.
Yeah, you did your hand movement. I believe you were saying and talking about alignment, right?
Yes. Yes. And I was like, here's the LLC, here's the book, and now I'm going this way. So yeah,
That's awesome. Tell me the name of your LLC.
it's called Audacious Health Advocates LLC. hmm And basically what it is just, really trying to get you to be audacious, be out there, empower yourself about your own health,
Hmm.
and we will show you how.
Yes, you will. And I cannot wait to
Mhm.
witness the greatness and even your ray of sunshine getting even bigger as you spread it to more people. Final words of wisdom that you would share either with the community or our public health community, our network.
I would say, think about that thing that has irked you, in public health.
Mm,
And think about it's really, the thing that has bothered you or kept you up, at night about your work. And then I would say, ponder it. And a lot of times it's not far from your grasp to do something about it. Keep that passion. I mean, most of the people who are in public health want to help people anyway. So
mm,
keep that passion and find a way that excites you to keep doing that. And you don't need the brick and mortar of an agency to do it. You don't. The success is never going to be a straight line. It's gonna have curves in it. It's gonna have detours in it, and I know that that's something that I've experienced. But and the last thing I will say is to be flexible. Like I literally was thinking, I can't do this book because I need more training. How am I need to apply for this, and how do I get this off the ground? And I'm thinking one way, and my friend says one little thing to me, just a few words. 5 words. And everything just comes right into focus. And I'm like, flexibility. Wow. Be open.
yeah,
So those would be the things that I would say.
amazing. Well,
Mhm.
thank you, Henria, so much for sharing with me, and you're allowing me to share this story with our community and network. And so,
Right.
again, I cannot wait to read your book and then see the greatness. So
I
that's
appreciate you,
it.
Tiffany. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.